Management Committee on June 13th at 1800 hours or 6 p.m. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I see no new visitors in the crowd at this point. Plan update, shelter discussion. You want to take that?
Sure. I didn't expect that echo. Normally, we just say progress at this point, but we actually have some progress. So I've been trying to peck away at some of this. So this is just the first page, and this is kind of where I keep track of everything. We have made it down through the first 3 sections of our plan here. We're actively working on section 3 right now. I finished the little tail end of 2, which was the school district piece. So we're in 3 and heading towards 4 and 5. If you see XX by the page number, that sort of means, you know, that's still pending, but I'm in 3 right now. So the one note is a lot of these, you know, we're trying to replicate what we have. Not a whole lot as far as updating, but if it's real obvious, I try and update things. There are certain things that are list-like that I'm taking out of this document and putting, Jasmine, if you want to flip to that second one, that spreadsheet, I just put them in Excel and take that and put it as a table into the document. This was something from a school district, school buses. That was our school bus list. So that's kind of the approach. If it's list-like and it looks like something we either update yearly or periodically, it's here separate, and then we take that and put it into the document. So it's just it makes it a little easier to find when we have to update things. There's certain things every year are going to need to be updated. So they're going here. So that's my little spiel on that. So
I appreciate the effort you put into that, because that's a lot of work. And that's going to be helpful. And you'll see here in a minute where we may have some assistance coming to us. We'll see how that works. Okay.
Right. The acronym BART, NDR. The NDR passengers.
Number of passengers, is that what
Yeah.
it's supposed to be? Number
Okay,
of?
it's just short for number.
Yep.
Thank you.
Most of this was borrowed from the old.
While we're speaking of buses, Jim Stewart, who's with Transportation Directorate, he was going to try to make it here tonight. And you'll see why in a minute, because there's other things that are happening. In reference to the Red Cross shelter evaluation, I spoke to the emergency manager of Bethel today, and he had spoken to Danielle, the lady who came here and gave us a presentation. And she's trying to capsulize a 72-page document. So I did see her today, so she's going to offer that to us once we get it, so we'll have an idea. Hopefully have a shortcut to address that issue as well. Reference to shelter, which Ed, you gave us all that information last time. In reference to shelter, though, the new emergency manager of Trainer Marcus Hook is looking to utilize our shelters because he doesn't have any shelter that he can identify at this point. So there was going to be more discussion about that. His name is Alphonse Brooks. Some of you may know him from the fire department. He was going to try to make it here this evening as well, because I need to get some information that the Board of Commissioners has asked about, like what would happen if we needed that same venue. But if it's a school district, that's going to affect Ed's group. So, you know, we have to get an idea where we're at. But along those those lines, I did find out that Marcus Hook Trainer and Lower Chichester, albeit we don't know who the emergency manager is for Lower Chichester, hired the same individual to update their plan. And I'm thinking there's going to be some intermingling of the plans. So I did ask the board, at least initially, to start thinking about that we may ask that same person to get involved with us to help us out. Of course, there'll be a cost to that. That's a little different, but that's something to look at too. I spoke to Tom Morgan today. Now, he's the emergency manager from Aston. And he said that Dave Holland had worked with him on some areas, but we don't know what those areas are. He did say that, you know, we could call upon each other if we needed assistance. In other words, we could call him if he needed assistance. So we can call him, he could call us. So anyway, so I think that's a good idea. I know what you all think about it, but with Lower Chi Marcus Hook Trainer, we're using basically the same resources. Possibly some of the same locations, meaning the school. They asked specifically about the community center on 452. And the township had some concerns, like if somebody was using it, what happens then, liability, insurance, who's responsible, those kind of questions. So I did ask him to, Alphonse that is, to start thinking of the answers to those questions so we have them. And then if I can get them all here, I also spoke to the Bethel Township emergency manager today. It just happened to be that way, odd as it is. And he's on vacation, so he was unable to make it here tonight. So with Bethel, maybe a little different, obviously. They're not going to count on us as much. Lower Chi, Marcus Hook Trainer, school district type situation might be a way to look at this and see if there's a benefit for all of us at some point. And hopefully if there is a cost involved in that, that would relieve some of the burden that you've taken on in reviewing this plan. But like you say, you're coordinating what we have now. So the updates, that person could work on the updates, and that would be an easier way to deal with it. I did go to the, we got notice of a Delco equipment demo today. And it was up at the Emergency Services Training Center in Darby. And they had on display various equipment that they have. Mass casualty units, transportation units, canine animal control units. They have it all. Light standards, signs, water rescue was there, Chester, for confined space, and high angle rescue. It was Upper Darby and Chester, the paid fire departments. But I mean, it's just something when if we had an incident that we probably need to think pretty quickly, because it's shared resources. If we think we need a resource, they have a hazmat response unit. So they're well equipped. Yeah, one of your fire police officers was there. I was going to ask him about that today. No, Art Gorga was there. And Paul was there. Yeah, and I can understand the cost, and I saw maybe they may have a lot more signs, but one thing I did see by looking in the garage, I saw a lot of generators. You know, sometimes we may get a person that may need a generator because of health reasons. So, but we got to be the first out of the box to ask for that. But I counted over 20 of them sitting along a wall, and I'm thinking, this is interesting, because some of the equipment they keep up there as a staging location. So, I mean, it wasn't very many people there today, and it was from 10 o'clock, and I got out of there, it was around 1 o'clock maybe or so. Right. So I don't know if they're going to, they think they're going to have a bigger crowd this evening. But I have to give them credit because a lot of times some people knew that they had resources, but most people did not know and don't think about even asking them. So,
All the amount of resources that was there, to me, was very impressive. That we as a county had
yes.
that much. Just very surprised. Even though I knew a lot of the pieces, but seeing it all there and laid out. Wow. Not that everyone is county owned, some of it is fire department or,
Yeah. So specialized units.
The Chester dive, the Manoa was there, Swiftwater Rescue. Not really apparatus. I was down there at noon.
Okay. Oh, I missed you. Uh-huh.
It was in the cool spot.
Yeah, well, yeah, got a little warm. I will say that. I will say that. So that's something that, to keep in the back of our mind, maybe as we get more specific, like if they would give us a spread sheet.
One of the things I asked for while I was there today is, does anybody have a list of all this?
Yeah.
And they all kind of looked at me. Nobody would say, "Oh, you would think you would go to something like that. There's a list of what we have here."
Yeah. So,
But apparently the county knows about everything that the county knows. So you said, "Well, I need Swiftwater or I need high angle." They know. Nice to have as we have these resources.
well, some of the transport vehicles they had, triage. I mean, it was kind of impressive. They've got a lot. They got a lot. So just something to keep in mind now as we go forward.
Any discussion on the use of those units?
You just have to call actually through 911. That's simple.
To use the signboards, and you go to a police department. But somebody has to authorize charges.
Charges.
Yeah, so if there's any cost involved, somebody has to authorize that.
Yeah, if they're using it for that purpose. Nobody mentioned that though.
But like we called in Lower Child, we were trying to close on Ridge Road. And we were trying to get signboards. They would only bring them for puddle cues, but nothing on Ridge Road. And they had to have the police authorize it for any charges that might.
There was no,
Was that recently or was it?
They did it 2 years ago.
I wonder if things changed maybe.
They could have. I know that we were not able to request them ourselves. They had to go through the township that was being used. So we were in Lower Child.
well,
We had an 88 car coming off.
that's a question that we'll have to pursue, but I would think our tax dollars and federal dollars pay for all the equipment that I saw there. Yeah, I don't know if they actually, and if it is from a grant, they cannot charge you. So maybe they were looking for insurance in case somebody ran over the sign. I don't know. But do you think they would have their own insurance anyway? So, okay, well, so that's a couple things that transpired. The reason we got into a discussion with Jim Stewart is because apparently, and I haven't seen this yet, I don't know if you would have seen it from your other position, a new daycare ruling where they have to have a emergency evacuation plan and shelter in place plan at the state. This is somewhat new. Are you familiar with that? Could you maybe forward a copy or a site to our team? Well, the reason I mention that is apparently one of the plans for this in-home daycare, and I won't be specific to the name of the actual in-home daycare. They were under understanding that the school district was going to send a little bus over there to get their 6 children, like a 12-seater bus, I guess a van, right? And yeah, and apparently that was like agreed to years ago in some plans. So keep your eye out for that because so her plan, which was very practical and simple, they had 6 kids, 3 people work there. They all have cars, put 2 in each car and move. And I said, I think that sounds good to me. Because you don't count on us. And then for shelter in place, she's going to put people in the basement. So that's fine. And she rattled on all the things she would have, water, first aid. Okay, it sounded good to me. But I don't know if we're going to get into, if you know more information, do we have to review these plans? She was under the impression, but I've only had that one call, just that one call. Yeah. I don't even know that we have a list.
One of the tabs on here, and maybe we don't want to disclose it, because I don't know what
Right.
is the list.
Of the places and how current that is. And then they have to have a business permit. They have to have a business permit, whether they're in it. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you need a repository for
Exactly. And well, maybe this new law says that, but doesn't say how, as Ed just mentioned. That's most, again, talk about practical. That's probably the most practical way is they get a license that they supply all that documentation so we know that it exists. Some of the bigger ones, I know the school district even stops at the location, like for after school care at some of the places. I mean, there's a courtesy. They're bigger. So what is their plan? Because if we all look for these buses, and I'm just using buses as an example, it's going to be a nightmare. If something hit this region, it's going to be a nightmare. There's not going to be enough buses. So I think that the other people, the other location made a practical decision to use what they have. That's probably the easiest thing. They probably should start that just like with any emergency, be prepared for 72 hours without any assistance. Be prepared 72 hours out for either sheltering or you have an evacuation location where to go to. I actually, last Friday, spoke to, actually the Friday before that, DHS in reference to training. We just got to figure out what kind of training we need. But they're willing to supply us with some kind of training as they need be. I haven't heard anything back from, I was actually with the police chief for Norfolk Southern. So, but I haven't heard anything back from their trainer about doing something there. And I know this is a CSX main line, but I'm trying to utilize resources that are available. The CSX trainer is out of the area. So Norfolk, they all work together. They're Class A railroads. As we all did, we monitored severe weather alerts again. Fortunately, to my knowledge, we've had no issues. We've dodged that bullet again. We're going to dodge it constantly. I was on a FEMA webinar the other day, and it dealt with Agnes. And I know there was an article in the newspaper about Agnes if you get the Daily Times. So it wasn't of this area, though. It seemed to be focused on, I believe, Montgomery County, Norristown, that area. But 50-year anniversary of Agnes, and they spoke about reducing flood risk. Tomorrow there was a call, and I did put that out, and I apologize for somewhat the lateness on that. But tomorrow night, if anybody's interested, there's a risk assessment webinar or call that the county is putting on. I'm sure we'll get in more information. I already went to one meeting in reference to that, and we forwarded to the township. You were involved in that, identifying certain locations to see if we get funding to do some mitigation. So we'll see where that works. The old business I have here is still business context, but I haven't heard anything from the township with regard to what we already have supplied them. So I probably should follow up with George and just see, what is the compliance percentage that we've had on the business contact list. Remember, we were looking to make sure the phone numbers were right and that kind of thing. Yeah, that's a good point too. They got to step up and.
required means required.
Required means required.
Yeah.
Well, that's the leverage. You're right. That's the leverage that they have. The township has the leverage. We don't have the leverage. They have the leverage on whether they issue a permit or not. Yeah. Yeah. And I was on the impression, and still may be, that they had a new software program that was going to collate all this information, so you can pull it up real easily. I'm not sure what that is. I don't know whether Jasmine has any, she's new here, but whether she has any insight on that. Yeah. Which should be easier for the people to do, and that makes sense to me. Plus that now you have a database, an actual physical database. Yeah. So if you're talking to our township manager tomorrow or whoever is designated to that, I'd be curious to see what kind of percentage. You are now on our email list, by the way. So you'll get all the emails that we get, whether it's a weather alert or, I mean, it's not going to bother you. I'm just saying you're going to be getting those. Julio put that on today after your request. So that's Julio. He adds our people on. So thank you. I don't know what, and maybe this is a question for the county. I'd be curious to see if they have any breakdown of how many people are on that Delco alert. And how we're going to alert people. I did notice. Yeah, I did notice that reference to holiday trash and those issues. We haven't been putting those out, the alerts, which is a good thing. So the alerts are for an emergency. Yeah, we got them for trash. We talked about cable DV, and I'm just going to leave that on the old business. I know we're not quite ready for that yet. An energy transfer, I reached out to them for some training too. That's on the back burner. Because I like to get another, if it's in the fall, another exercise of some type, just to get people in here together. If we could figure out what do we want to emphasize, where we want to go with. I mean,
We were getting any information back from,
no. I knew where that was going. No, that's kind of interesting. No, didn't answer your question. I did send an email though. But I sent that email, I'll have to go back. I probably sent that email after you asked me the question the first time. So what's that been, a month? Something like that? Right. I can get somebody to help us with pipeline, probably because our pipeline does come into Delaware County from Delaware City Refinery. They're usually very cooperative and interested maybe in doing something like that if they don't get the response. But that program, if you didn't see it, I think you were out that week. We could actually develop all the scenarios ourselves. It shows the pipeline, the actual pipeline location, response. It wasn't too elaborate, but it was, something that was worthwhile that we could use. The recruitment, we're still, every time I get a chance, I ask for if any individuals are interested. I mean, we decided this is a core group, but we need people additionally. And speaking of which, if we did call the Red Cross in for assistance for shelter, I mentioned just very briefly the K9 group would come with the Red Cross because I asked, how do we get you here? Let's say, for instance, we had a lot of animals that needed servicing. And they got into snakes, all kinds of exotic animals. But they would come if needed. Like if we didn't have space for the animals, they would come and assist with that. And I saw their van. I don't know if you did. They had they have a lot of cages. The only thing they said to me is that the owners would be responsible possibly for walking their dogs and doing some other things, but, you know, keeping in mind that the animals. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, that would be good, as long as we don't have too many fights, but yeah,
Yes, you would probably want to have.
that's a good idea. That's a real good idea. It's fenced in. It's like a doggy park, whatever you call them. What do you call them? Well, maybe we can get community service to do that.
Well, I mean, I thought about that before.
Yeah. Yeah. And we know from reports, and actually we discussed it here before, that if people have animals and you tell them to evacuate, they want to take their animals with them, or they're not evacuating in a lot of cases. So, you know, it's part of the family. If they're small, that's one thing. If it's horses, I brought up horses today. We don't have any horses in town that I'm aware of. Okay. But I was on an exercise a little while ago, and it was like one of the you know, injects was, okay, now you just got to call, this guy has his prize race horses. He's got 5 of them. You know, what are you going to do? What are you going to do about those? You know, interesting question. Interesting question.
We're in Middletown, yet we're-
Yeah. But they would call and they said they're working along with Penn State with rental horses. So there's the answer for that one if you're with your Middletown buddies. Yeah. Yeah, for the horses. Yeah, I like
You
that.
got caged in areas,
Right.
fenced in areas.
But the horses used to jump the fences. I used to have to chase the horses on 322. Years ago, we used to have a lot of horses. Where the Walmart is, there was a horse farm there, and we had the Chelsea Horse Farm. We had a horse out on Meeting House Road by the state line. One night, this lady says to me, she said, "My horse got out. Now, here's what you need to do, officer. You need to bang on this a little bit, and then he'll think it's feed time. He'll come." I'm thinking, okay. We had them on Cherry Tree Road as well, and they would get out on 322, which is obviously a major hazard if it happened. So, chickens, yeah, I don't know if they're a fowl, whether they be considered a pet. Yeah,
Chickens on the East Creek Road.
but you mentioned the goats. What I did, I went when I was police chief. I went to the state, got a grant from the Department of Agriculture. I got cages, I got gloves, I got nooses. Capture the goats. Fortunately, we didn't have a massive goat escape, but you know, that's what it is. All right. I guess we can go around the room and see if anyone has anything to add, but that's pretty much where we're at. So a lot of communication. I was hopeful that some of these individuals would make it here this evening, but you know, for whatever reasons, they weren't able to. They are interested, though. Like I said, I saw the Bethel emergency manager was there today. I saw Tom Morgan today, the Aston emergency manager. Alphonse, I spoke to him the other week, and he's definitely interested in working with us. And I think it might be a good asset for us too, to have them. And if the same person is doing all the plans, or at least reviewing those plans, I think that makes sense too, to make sure there's no corruption there somehow, you know, where we're all saying, "Oh, we're all going to go here." You go, "Well, yeah, you are." Yeah, exactly. We get first choice because we have Ed Cardo here, so we get first choice. Second choice? Oh, okay. Yeah. Unless we'll shelter the kids in, right? We'll shelter the kids in. Yeah. Scratch that from the minutes. Okay, I don't have anything further. So, Carl, do you have anything additional?
Again, that display today I thought was awesome. Just the amount of resources that we have in the county, seeing them kind of all physically, and almost all of them in one location was very impressive. I don't know that I've seen that before. And some are housed there, some are housed elsewhere, but just for the display, it was really good.
That makes sense to have resources in various locations.
Yep. Yeah.
particularly the size of this county. And during Agnes, we got locked out of a lot of sections of our own township. So
I know that a few of the people we talked to said they were more than willing to come out for a, either a community day, maybe for a meeting like this, and do a mini display of like what they did today, but like for the Citizens Corps or the pet group, you have the pamphlet there for, I don't have the name, but
Yeah.
Danielle coordinates all that. So if we want to see any or all, part of that, even like she said, at our community day, it might be a good thing to invite them to show the public, not just us, but
may draw some attention. Maybe we could get some recruitment. And by the way, you asked the question, all these services go through 911.
Yeah.
So even though they're independent, the emergency services handles them, delegates them.
right. Specifics on the sheltering, we talked about the different locations we had in our plan. I've reached out to just about everybody that was on our church list. I think that's everybody here, and Lutheran Knolls. So we're going to compile all the information that we get back from them. I think a lot of it is probably outdated at this point. One message I got back was that person's deceased. So yeah, we need some updating. So progress on that also. We didn't really have any emergency activations of our hydration unit,
I was going to ask you about that.
the rehab hydration unit. We went up to the burn tower up in Westchester this weekend. This was a different group, so this wasn't our local fire department. It was a few others, and their response was like, "Wow, you guys do this?" So, and we actually brought some of our paperwork today to that event. I was hoping to try and learn some things, like what does the county have resource-wise, equipment-wise, and maybe find something that we could use. And
Well, they had that one trailer there.
yeah, they had a lot of stuff. I like how we're smaller, a little more agile, a little more compact. It'd be great to have a 25-gallon water container with a big, but we don't have that. But it opened even more eyes this weekend with the deployment. And it was kind of rainy weather too. It was like for part of the day, and while they were in there was a lot of fire departments involved. None of them had seen us before, and it was kind of, cool anyway. So we didn't really need misting and all, but we set everything up just as a display. And halfway through it, we weren't really paying too much attention. We were down the other day, so hey, and they had a couple guys come out. They got overheated, real hot. They got to turn all the fans on, and so it came in handy. But I think
Who was
The-
there?
the-
Because I looked.
it was
I didn't see it, so I thought they weren't going.
who was, you mean from us or
Locally, yeah.
from our department, or
Yeah.
you mean
Yeah.
well, just Jessica and I went
Yeah,
to deploy.
for the emergency management. What fire departments?
It was 01, 76, 77,
Okay.
and 18, and so put that in, not in numbers. Fallcroft, Darby Township, Goodwill, Folsom, and
That's good.
I'm missing somebody because they had like maybe at least 8, 9, 10 pieces of apparatus there. We usually go with 3, but we go just as our Upper Chichester, so we take 3, but they had a lot.
So they went as like a district almost. So.
Yeah, kind of. And they're a group that's trying to learn to work together. They have been, but they're trying to learn to work together even more. But again, I'm a little concerned that they're going to start calling us because they were, kind of like, well, who do we dispatch through Fireboard? Oh, wait a minute. We're not quite there yet. So,
Well, you can give them the plan and say, this is what you need to do.
and I'm going to talk about this in a moment. But one thing I told them was that, and it was an idea that came up. We may move this stuff, in the future into when we have a spare ambulance. that we might be able to just stock all this stuff in and, just kind of go from there. If somebody needs to call us, they can just call us, that kind of thing. We do have, if anybody wants to see it, I didn't make copies, but we do have the inventory list. We talked about pictures, so we made a picture to show like how everything fits together. Typical deployment kind of a thing. We don't always do that, but and then even words, to like detailed words to go with the picture. So we got a lot of stuff written up for that, and I can send that out to the group if you want.
Yeah,
I update it periodically because we keep getting more stuff to shove in, but like I said, I'm looking for maybe another vehicle for this stuff because it's getting to be, I can't fit this piece of paper in the truck. It's getting overfilled. And the only other thing was about the weather tonight, but kind of watching that. And they finally used the D word tonight when they were talking about the weather. I don't think we're going to get it. It's probably going to be more to our south. But derecho is kind of the setup for tonight. So that's the long duration thunderstorms with really strong winds coming across. I think it's going to hit more to our south, but we've got hit head on with those and had a lot of destruction across the state. So
we had a lightning
Stay tuned.
strike on Sunday
yes, we did.
at Boothwyn. Took
Blew the top of the
Duratio.
pole.
Did I say that right? It's a duratio. It's I think a Spanish word. It's a weather term for it's like a line of thunderstorms that comes, but it'll start like in the western part of the state and stay together and just with like over 100-mile-an-hour winds. Like, yeah, I think it's DURCH something. I don't know. I know too much about the weather. I saw that weather station in that one trailer today. I got really excited. I thought, they got better equipment than I did.
There you go.
But anyway,
Yes, and I think that's where we go from this point through the summer. I have our next meeting is September 12th. And just as we'll keep, appraised of what's happening. If we need to take action, we'll be prepared to take action and make the notification, so on and so forth. But reference to Boothwyn, it took a top off of a pole.
Eco pole right outside of it, at the top of the pole, screw at the top of the pole, and trip the fire alarm off, and then something to the traffic light in front of the firehouse, they then call the repair company out.
Yeah, it's getting too close.
All the way to the middle of the parking lot, they're out on the side, was pole fragments.
one of our people was outside.
Ooh. That's luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, even the splintering from wood, that could be.
Good lesson for smoke.
Yeah.
Quit smoking while you-
Particularly during a thunderstorm with lightning. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And heavy rain at the time as well, actually. You guys have anything over here?
We had a couple of word main breaks, and I'm not quite the case. But, yes, there's been a couple of word main breaks in the last couple of months. There's been some growth for Friday. We had the word main break in front of the commercial on Meeting House Road. We were closed for a good. And where it was shut down, there was, I think, 6 residents. Also were mandates made, put it out, the whole area. We have one around Monticello. A month ago.
If you go back even a little further, I think we've had quite a few.
We had, yes.
Like on Meeting House Road, there was up by Central. I mean, it's kind of interesting.
There's been a bunch. It's that whole area of town because Rogers Avenue has got a
I don't know what's the reason. Old.
notice out. The roadways were closed to emergency vehicles. Way to get the emergency vehicles.
Aston Police just put out a bulletin in reference to Chichester Avenue to Cherry Tree Road on Concord. Yeah. Okay, you have anything further? Do you have anything? Thank you. All right, go ahead, Ed. Katrina, nothing?
Send alerts out to. I noticed, I just logged into my account, there's like concert alerts, there's also concert road closure alerts.
Ray Fuller is the coordinator.
Like, maybe we should
But a few of the highway, well, they'll do a training for us. But a few of the highway department personnel have access to it. But the key, when we had to do it for COVID, it was Ray Fuller.
closing like a lot of these roadways down, we've had a lot of incidents about 320 hours. House road were closed down for hours, and nothing.
Well, you can investigate and see who, if we need to send something from our group, we can probably do it.
Closed down 322 probably 3 or 4 times in the past few months for 5, 6, 7 hours at a time. And
Well, the Delco Alert, do we get to, that goes beyond Delco Alert as well, though, because Delco Alerts are local people, but how about the transient people, the radio stations and, those kind of things, KYW?
we do go out to the 501 network.
Yeah.
We make those calls.
So hopefully, the mapping, which I haven't had very much success with recently, they take me to different places, but it is what it is.
The mapping is actually getting updated. We just got dispatched yesterday, it was actually came in as a really safe concept for a tree down on 352. We got traffic control, and the intersection, the dispatch system wasn't jiving, so we were from cross street. At that cross street, I'm going to just open Apple Maps, and Apple Maps actually had the yellow splat where the area was, showed the traffic backed up, so there's I don't know how Apple Maps can be data somewhere quickly from our 911 center or happening a lot more now. They're using the camera a lot more too, yes. And then places out turnpike that we put place in an emergency vehicle here, the ambulance, fire truck, when the lights are activated for the turn. Signal out to the cloud and disseminates to all the mapping services that we navigation pops up on their map.
Years ago, I did a pilot program with Cobra Electronics.
Very similar to that.
And what it was, Cobra Electronics had this idea that a lot of people had radar detectors that you could pop up on the screen other messages, construction, school bus stopped ahead. And if the units, meaning the school buses, the police cars, fire truck, they would have these devices that would signal when the emergency lights went on, so they would know that. So what I did, I had ours have radar. So I had them on constantly. So what would happen? People would slow down because they'd be getting these radar alerts. They would slow down. But I think radar detectors have moved on to another era at this point. So it was going to do it for railroad crossings and whatnot. I also got, at one time, I had the railroad crossing by Rogers Avenue, and we had to get CSX to get special permission from the government, and they did. That I had an alert there that if the arms were down, the fire departments could get that information, that the arms are down. It would be just a tone information, but if they heard that tone, they would know that the gates are down because they got stuck there frequently. You have anything, Bob? You're all good, thank you. Yeah, if you hear who is Lower Chichester, I don't want you to be volunteered for it, but yeah. If you can find out who it is, tell them you're already committed. Al?
I get the Frank Williams. There was a series of bills. Only for township to clear space in the case of flood. It alters the permitting process. And also has eliminated the Fish and Game Commission to control. So it might be interesting. You think it's relevant?
Could be, yeah. Well, Lisa Catania is our primary
But
contact
it
there.
seems to be, it looked, when I read, I didn't read the bills, I read the process of cleaning up, actions that are makes it much easier. Also, within a certain act, immediately. So I think that might be wise. You haven't been passed yet.
We'll see, that'd be good. And the Army Corps is probably mentioned in there somehow, I would think, because a couple of times before we utilized the Army Corps, so to actually get the authority to do what you had to do. All right, well, thank you.
No one responds to the brand.
Yeah, that was kind of significant. Okay, I don't see anyone here from the general public that has any comments. So with that, we can adjourn. The next meeting is scheduled for September 12th at 1800 or 6 p.m. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Have a great night and a great summer.